A couple months ago, I did a video titled 5 Yu-Gi-Oh cards that you've never heard of before. You guys seem to really like that video. If you haven't seen that one, basically it's a game style thing where you guys comment along as I reveal these cards. The basic outline is that I'll talk about the name first, and then I'll give you the artwork of the card, and that's where you put in your guesses if you know the effect or not. There are obviously thousands of Yu-Gi-Oh cards that have never seen competitive play, and that's kind of what I try to pick for these videos. But in today's video, I want to sort of expand on that idea by doing 10 cards in one video, because a lot of people suggested that I do more than just 5. So anyway, without further ado, let's jump right in with number 1, Neutron Blast. Neutron Blast. Does anyone know that name? I don't think you will, but maybe when you see the artwork, you will remember this card. So I'm going to put the artwork up there right now. Now you kind of know which archetype it's a part of, where Neutron Blast comes from. Anyway, that's your final time to put in your guess. And so this is a spell card that says target 1 fusion summoned Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon you control. This turn, it can make a second and third attack during each battle phase. Also, when it attacks your opponent, cards and effects cannot be activated until the end of the damage step. Obviously, this card hasn't been played because Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon isn't played, but even if this said just like Blue Eyes, I'm not sure it would actually be good enough. It'd be really good in Duel Links, but as far as the TCG goes, a card like Neutron Blast simply not competitive enough to see play, mainly because it's based off of a card that hasn't ever seen play in an actual Blue Eyes deck that people take to tournaments. Next up, we have Bearblocker. Bearblocker, and it's all one word. I'm not sure if that actually helps you guys. Here's the artwork. It's just an adorable little bear with sort of devil horns, I guess. Maybe it's not as cute as I thought it was. So Bearblocker. Does anyone know what this card does? Well, this is from Soul Fusion, so pretty recent, and it's a fiend effect monster that says during your opponent's turn, set cards in your spell and trap card zones cannot be destroyed by card effects. If a set cards in your spell and trap card zone is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, this card gains 800 attack until the end of the turn. The reason that this card hasn't been played, by the way, is because it just doesn't do enough. However, though, I should mention if that first effect was tacked onto just an already good monster and an already good archetype, sort of like an Altergeist monster, if it had that effect attached to another good effect, maybe then it would be pretty playable. But just having a 1600 attack monster that prevents your back row from being destroyed is simply not good enough for 2018, or really any era of Yu-Gi-Oh! Remember, if you got this right or wrong, keep track of it in the comment section below, and then you can sort of see how many of the 10 you got right at the end of the video. Next up, we have Cupid Volley. Cupid Volley, and there's the artwork for you, kind of what you'd expect out of a card with the name Cupid Volley. Does anyone know what this card does, though? Because I sure didn't. It is a card from Cybernetic Horizon, so fairly recent. It's a fairy 1-star that says you can choose a number from 1 to 3, then send that many cards from the top of your deck to the graveyard. Increase this card's level by the number of cards sent to the graveyard this way until the end of this turn. If this card you control is destroyed by an opponent's card effect and sent to your graveyard, you gain 1500. Oh, it's not even card effect, it's just opponent's card. You gain 1500 life points. You can use each effect of Cupid Volley once per turn. This card isn't the worst card I've ever read, however, it sadly is not very good when you compare it to a card like Card Trooper that gets you attack points and also gets you a draw when it is destroyed, whereas this one only gains you life points back. But this is kind of a card that I think I saw some people talking about when they were opening packs of Cybernetic Horizon, but in general, yeah, it's not going to see any competitive play, so most of you probably haven't heard of it. Next up, and we're on the 4th one, if you're keeping track at home, we have the Deep Grave. The Deep Grave, and here's the artwork. It is exactly what you'd expect. It's a deep grave. So this is the Deep Grave. Anyone know what it does? Maybe not, maybe you do. It's also released in Cybernetic Horizon. It was a rare, and it says target 1 monster in either player's graveyard during your next standby phase, special summon it from the graveyard, and that summons it to your side of the field, by the way. Doesn't actually specify that, but that's how it works. And the reason this card didn't see play, obviously, it's just a really slow monster to be born. Not only do you have to wait after you've activated the card to get the special summon, but also because it's a trap card, you're already waiting 1 turn. So this is like a 2-turn delay where you could just play Monster Reborn, and not even every deck is playing Monster Reborn. But did you know it? Did you not know it? Make sure you're keeping track in the comment section below. At number 5, so we're halfway through here, we have, and I'm not making this up, the card is literally called Big Whale. It is called Big whale. Does anyone know what a big whale card is? I'm not talking about the mermail monster, and here's the artwork. It is just a big whale as expected. And anyway, this card is a couple years old, and it's a fish, and it says when this card is tribute summoned, you can tribute this card, special summon 3 level 3 water monsters from your deck. Their effects are negated. Not the best card. It has a pretty big investment and not a huge payoff. It's not even a plus in card economy because you had to tribute 2 monsters to get it, so you're doing a 3 for 3 trade that can be disrupted by different card effects like Ash Blossom or even things like Solemn Strike. At number 6, we have Thunder Crash. Thunder Crash. Here's the artwork. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on here. Some skeletons being blown up by a thunder strike. This is Thunder Crash. Did you know it? Well, this card is from Invasion of Chaos, so pretty old, over 10 years old. And it says, destroy all monsters on your side of the field, inflict damage to your opponent's life points equal to the number of monsters destroyed times 300 points. Now, this card obviously isn't very good. When it was released, the maximum damage you could do was 1,500. At the moment, you could do 1,800. But what is interesting, just as like a quick side note, this is actually sort of the effect of Slash Draw, which is currently part of an FTK that saw play at YCS Milan. Slash Draw does a lot more damage per card, not like Thunder Crash, so that's why that one was so good. But it's worth mentioning that like a type of effect just like this, just with more damage, actually is seen play at a competitive level. But yeah, Thunder Crash, never been played, never will be played. Pretty bad. At number 7, we have Mystrick Hulder. Mystrick Hulder. Not Mystic, Mystrick Hulder. Here's the artwork for you, which looks kind of just like a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh cards, honestly. It looks pretty generic. And anyway, this is a super rare from Soul Fusion, a level 5 monster. And this is actually the card that inspired me to do this video. If you remember, I opened a Soul Fusion Special Edition. I pulled this card, and I'd never seen it before in my entire life, even though I had opened it in a couple boxes beforehand. But anyway, it's a spellcaster monster that says, if this card is normal or special summon, you can discard 1 card. Apply the following effect depending on the type of card you discarded. If you discarded a monster, you get to add back a trap from your graveyard. If you discarded a spell, you get to add back a monster from your graveyard, so on and so forth. And it is a hard once per turn effect. Most people, I think, do not know this card exists, even though it's a very recently released card, and even though it's a holographic card. I'm sure people in the comments will remember this card, because they always do. But when I open this and when I show this to my friends, no one really knew what it was. Did you know what it was? Well, make sure you're keeping track. That was we should have 7 cards so far, so if you have a number other than 7 as your base number, you are off by 1. You'll have to go back and check out if you missed a card. Anyway, though, let's move on with a card that is pretty funny. So this card is just called Tornado. Just called Tornado, and here's the artwork. And I know when you look at this artwork, you'd be like, but Doug, this is like the artwork of what, like 6 other cards? And that's true. There's like Twister, a Mystical Space Typhoon, Heavy Storm Duster, all sorts of cards with artwork that looks exactly like this, but it is none of those cards. This is from Force of the Breaker, so again, a 10-year-old card here, and it says activate only when there are 3 or more cards in your opponent's spell and trap card zone. Destroy 1 card in your opponent's spell and trap card zone. Basically, it's a Mystical Space Typhoon with requirements. Never saw play even when Mystical Space Typhoon was limited back in the day, or semi-limited back in the day as well. The requirements are just simply too much to ask. Obviously, nowadays we have too many other cards that do this job way better. But yeah, poor Tornado, unlike Twister, which did see play when MST was limited, Tornado does not see any play and has never seen play in Yu-Gi-Oh's history. The 9th card on our list is Call of the Grave. Call of the Grave, and here's the artwork. Pretty scary dude going on here. Is he like huge or something? I just realized that there's like a grave site in the background, so it must be like some big guy. I don't know. Call of the Grave, sorry, not Call by the Grave, Call of the Grave. There's the artwork, and this card you might have recognized. It recently was released in the Legendary Collection Kaiba. It's been released before that, but it is a trap card that says when your opponent activates Monster Reborn, negate the effect of that Monster Reborn. Obviously, way too specific to ever see play. You're much better off using a card like Ghost Spell or DD Crow, even back in the day when this card was released, which was pretty close to Monster Reborn getting released, or at least like a year or 2 off. This card did not see any play. These sort of specific counter cards like Griffin Wing also comes to mind, just tend to not be played in Yu-Gi-Oh! You want to have more generic outs to even the best cards, because your opponent might not draw that 1 copy of Monster Reborn in their deck at the same time that you have Call of the Grave, so most of the time it's just going to be a dead card in your back row. And finally, at number 10, hopefully you've been keeping track, we have Grand Convergence. Grand Convergence, and here's the artwork. It is picturing an actual Grand Convergence. I believe that's like some sort of spacey, sciencey term. So it's Grand Convergence, and this is a quick play spell card released a while ago, and it says if you control Macrocosmos, inflict 300 damage to your opponent and destroy all monsters on the field. Not even the worst card that I've seen. I think this saw some experimentation back in the day. The big benefit of this card is that it's like extra copies of Dark Hole, but it's a quick play spell, which is pretty cool, and then it combos with Macrocosmos because all the cards that you're destroying are actually banished instead of going to the graveyard. Pretty cool combo, not the greatest card. You might have not heard of it, especially if you didn't play back in the day when Macrocosmos first came out. This was actually released in the Macrocosmos set. There's a whole bunch of Macrocosmos support cards people kind of forget about. But anyway, that is all 10 cards that I think that you have never heard of. How many did you know once I showed the artwork or once I said the name? There's been sometimes, I remember in the last one, where people knew the card from just the name for every single one of the 5. I don't know if that's really possible with 10 cards from all these different eras of Yu-Gi-Oh! But if that happened to you, make sure you comment it below. Anyway though, I'll see you guys later. Thank you so much for playing along. Goodbye.